The storm raged as waves slammed against the jagged rocks, lightning splitting the sky in jagged white veins. Seraphina stood on the cliff, her black cloak whipping like wings of shadow. Her eyes glowed faintly, catching the fire of the storm. She whispered, "The sea takes what it loves, and I will not be fooled again." Below, a ship tilted violently, its sails torn and splintering under the fury. A figure clung to the mast, his desperate cries swallowed by the roar. The ocean surged, pulling him into its abyss. Seraphina felt the pull in her chest, an ache she despised yet could not resist. The cursed waves carried him closer to her shore, battered but alive. The smell of salt and blood filled the air. She clenched her fists as her heart betrayed her vow, whispering a name she did not yet know. The storm howled louder, as if the sea itself mocked her resistance, daring her to surrender once more to love's curse. Kaelen's body washed onto the rocky shore, his breath shallow and uneven. Seraphina stepped down from the cliff, the storm fading to a muted drizzle, as though bowing to her will. She knelt beside him, brushing wet strands of hair from his bruised temple. "You should have drowned," she muttered, though her hand lingered longer than she wished. His chest rose weakly, and she felt the pull of fate tugging like an anchor around her heart. The sea hissed behind her, restless and knowing, as if mocking her defiance. She pulled back sharply, wrapping her cloak tighter. "I will not play this game again," she whispered to the waves. Yet her gaze drifted back to him, her defenses crumbling. The night smelled of salt and sorrow, and the tide carried a promise she dared not trust. Kaelen stirred, his lips parting as he gasped for air, coughing salt water. Seraphina turned away, unwilling to meet his eyes. "Do not thank me," she said, her voice sharp though her hands trembled. He whispered, "Who are you?" His voice cracked, filled with desperation and awe. She stood tall, cloak swirling in the mist, refusing to answer. The sea churned as if echoing her silence. Kaelen reached weakly toward her, but his arm fell back, too heavy to hold. "Why save me?" he pressed. Seraphina's eyes flickered with something fragile, but she forced her tone steady. "The sea decides who lives, not I." Her words cut cold, but her heart betrayed her with every beat. The storm had quieted, but the silence weighed heavier than thunder. Seraphina stood over Kaelen, torn between fleeing and staying. His gaze clung to her, wide with awe despite his pain. "You are no ordinary woman," he breathed. Her lips curved into a bitter smile. "And you are no ordinary fool." She turned away, but the pull of his presence gnawed at her resolve. Memories clawed at her chest, lovers lost to the sea, curses she could not undo. She whispered to herself, "Not again." Yet when he coughed, her steps faltered. The night wrapped them in fragile stillness, as though fate itself was holding its breath. From the shadows, a voice called her name. Anselm, the old seer, stepped into the moonlight, staff clutched tightly. "Seraphina, this is no chance meeting," he warned. And his eyes lingered on Kaelen, narrowing with unease. "The sea delivers what it demands." She stiffened, anger flickering across her face. "I want no part in this." Anselm's gaze softened, heavy with pity. "But you are already part of it. His curse binds to yours, and the storm is only beginning." Seraphina's chest ached, the words cutting deeper than any blade. She turned away, her voice a whisper. "Then may the sea drown us both." Dawn crept over the restless sea, painting the horizon in muted silver. Seraphina dragged driftwood to build a fire, refusing to look at Kaelen as he stirred beside her. His breathing steadied, though every cough made her flinch. Kaelen's voice was hoarse but steady as he asked, "Why do you keep me alive?" Her cloak snapped in the cold wind as she muttered, "Because the sea has not claimed you." His eyes lingered on her face, searching for answers she would never give. Her pulse quickened under his gaze, though her expression stayed like stone. The tide whispered in steady rhythm, reminding her that nothing was accidental. She looked away toward the waves, silently begging them to release her from the weight of this bond. Yet Kaelen's presence wrapped around her like a tether she could not sever, his silence more dangerous than words. The silence broke when Rowan stumbled into the clearing, arms full of tangled nets and shells. His grin faltered as he noticed Kaelen, but quickly returned with forced cheer. "Well, isn't this cozy?" Rowan said, shaking water from his hair. Seraphina's glare silenced him, yet Kaelen managed a faint smile at the stranger's bravado. Rowan crouched, examining Kaelen's bruises. "Hell live. But only if you stop scowling at him like a storm cloud." Seraphina turned sharply, anger flaring. "This is no jest, Rowan." His eyes softened, seeing the fear she hid beneath her fury. "I know," he said quietly, "but sometimes a laugh keeps the sea from swallowing us whole." The fire crackled between them, casting uneven shadows across faces bound by fate they did not choose. Far beyond the shore, Lysandra watched from her obsidian tower, eyes sharp as glass. Her lips curved in a cold smile as she traced Kaelen's image shimmering in a bowl of water. "So the sea delivers him to her," she whispered, her voice dripping with venom. Shadows gathered around her, answering her malice. A black raven perched on her arm, its eyes glowing faintly red. "She cannot keep him," Lysandra declared, her tone like poisoned silk. With a flick of her hand, the waters in the bowl darkened, swirling into chaos. Thorn she had conjured had failed, but her plans had only begun. Lightning split the clouds beyond her tower, and she closed her eyes in cruel satisfaction. "Love is the weakest curse," she murmured, "and it will be their undoing." Seraphina sat apart from the fire, her cloak wrapped tight, eyes fixed on the sea. Rowan poked at the flames, his tone softer now. "You're afraid, aren't you?" She shot him a sharp look, but his smile faded into sincerity. "Not of him," Rowan added, nodding toward Kaelen. "Of yourself." Her hands tightened on her cloak. "I have seen what love costs," she said bitterly. Rowan leaned forward, voice low. "Maybe it costs, but maybe it saves too." She turned away, refusing to let his words sink past the walls she had built. The tide surged, louder than before, as if echoing the conflict twisting inside her. Her gaze drifted to Kaelen despite herself, his sleeping face stirring a dangerous ache she thought she had buried long ago. Kaelen stirred awake, his voice raw but determined. "I should be dead," he murmured, staring into the flames. Seraphina stiffened, refusing to look at him. "The sea chose otherwise," she replied. He studied her, his eyes sharp despite his weakness. "No, you chose." The words cut deeper than he knew, shaking her composure. Rowan glanced nervously between them, sensing the weight pressing down. Kaelen leaned closer, his tone urgent though his body trembled. "I carry a curse, one older than my bloodline. It hunts me, and now it hunts you." Seraphina's breath caught, though she masked it with scorn. "Then you should have drowned." Yet even as she spoke, her hand twitched toward him before retreating. The fire popped, sparks rising like fragments of destiny neither could escape. The fire burned low when a shadow stepped into its glow. Dorian emerged from the mist, his eyes dark as the sea at midnight. Once a hero, now scarred by betrayal, his presence froze Seraphina in place. Kaelen's expression hardened, confusion etched across his features. "You know him?" he demanded. Seraphina's breath hitched as Dorian smirked. "More than she wishes to admit." Rowan bristled, sensing danger though he masked it with a shaky grin. Dorian's voice carried a weight of regret wrapped in venom. "The sea never forgets, Seraphina. Nor do I." Her chest tightened, memories clawing through her defenses, yet she forced herself to stand tall. "You should have stayed drowned," she spat. But the ache in her voice betrayed her resolve, and Dorian's smile deepened. Tension coiled like a storm. Kaelen rose unsteadily, his body still frail but his voice fierce. "What binds you to her?" he demanded. Dorian's smirk widened, his tone mocking. "A history you could not begin to fathom." Seraphina's cloak whipped as she stepped between them, her tone sharp. "This is not your fight, Kaelen." His eyes flared with anger, pain mixing with jealousy. "Everything becomes my fight if it threatens you." Rowan groaned, rubbing his temple. Fantastic, two men with death wishes. But even his jest could not break the crackling tension. Dorian's gaze softened briefly, regret flickering in the shadows. "Once, Seraphina, I would have burned the seas for you. Now, I let them burn you instead." From the shadows a figure shifted, its form rippling like water. The shapeshifter emerged, their features never still, face flickering between identities. Their laughter was low, unsettling, as they circled the campfire. "Such fragile hearts," they sneered. Seraphina's fists tightened, eyes blazing. Kaelen's jaw clenched, mistrust thick in his gaze. Rowan muttered, "I hate it when things don't stay one shape." Dorian's smirk faltered, unease slipping past his mask. The shapeshifter's tone dripped with poison. "Every truth you cling to is only a mask. Trust me, and it will destroy you." Seraphina lunged, magic sparking at her fingertips, but the figure vanished into the mist, their laughter lingering like a curse. Anselm appeared suddenly, leaning heavily on his staff, his face etched with worry. "The prophecy unfolds," he said gravely, eyes sweeping across them all. "The prince cursed by the sea, the witch bound by loss, the fallen hero, and the liar of faces." Seraphina's stomach nodded, her gaze hardening. "You should not be here," she said. Anselm's tone was firm but sorrowful. "I am here because choice still remains, but the tide turns quickly, and if you falter, the sea will claim all." Kaelen's fists clenched, anger sparking. "Then tell us how to break it." Anselm lowered his head, voice heavy with grief. "The cure demands a price no heart willingly pays." Silence thickened, the fire hissing as though in warning. When silence threatened to drown them, Kaelen stepped closer to Seraphina, his voice low but fierce. "I don't care what curse hunts me. I only care that you stand with me." Her breath caught, heart thundering against her will. Dorian's eyes darkened, jaw tightening at the sight. Rowan looked away, giving them space despite his unease. Seraphina whispered, "You do not understand what loving me costs." Kaelen's gaze burned steady. "Then let me pay it." Before she could stop herself, she leaned forward, lips brushing his in a desperate kiss. The fire snapped loudly, sparks rising into the mist like fragile stars. The air grew heavier, as if even the sea held its breath at their defiance. The night deepened as Lysandra's magic stretched across the sea, shadows slithering like serpents toward the shore. Kaelen stirred uneasily, his body twitching as if pulled by unseen strings. Seraphina felt the shift, her heart pounding as dread clawed at her chest. Rowan leapt to his feet, sword drawn though his hand shook. "Something's coming," he muttered. Dorian's eyes gleamed, half mocking, half wary. "You finally notice?" The tide surged unnaturally, black foam crawling onto the rocks. Seraphina raised her hands, magic sparking as wind shrieked through the cliffs. She whispered fiercely, "She has found us." Kaelen groaned, clutching his chest, and the fire guttered out as if smothered by unseen hands. Darkness fell heavy, swallowing them whole. Kaelen staggered, his body racked by the curse's grip. He fell to his knees, gasping as blue light seared across his veins. Seraphina dropped beside him, her hands trembling as she tried to summon healing, though her power resisted. "Don't touch me," Kaelen rasped, his voice thick with pain. "It feeds on you." Her heart cracked, fury battling helplessness. Rowan knelt on the other side, eyes wide. "Tell me what to do." But no answer came. Dorian's smirk twisted into grim satisfaction. "This is what loving him means, Seraphina. You destroy yourself." She shot him a glare like fire. "Better to burn than let him die." Kaelen groaned, his body convulsing as waves crashed harder, echoing his torment. Seraphina fled from the fire's ruins, her cloak snapping as she raced to the cliffs. Her chest heaved, memories crashing against her resolve. She saw again the faces of those she had loved, all taken by the sea. "Not again," she whispered, clutching her chest. The tide roared below, mocking her grief with every surge. She fell to her knees on the wet stone, tears blurring her vision. "Why does love always drown me?" Lightning flashed, revealing her face twisted with anguish. Her magic pulsed wildly, burning against her skin as though punishing her weakness. She screamed into the storm, her voice carried far across the sea. For the first time in years, she admitted her fear aloud, and it shattered her like glass. Back at the camp, Rowan searched the wreckage, his hands frantic. He pulled open broken crates, muttering nervously. His face paled as he found a hidden chest, glowing faintly with symbols of the deep. "Seraphina should see this," he whispered. Dorian appeared behind him, voice low and dangerous. Or perhaps not. Rowan spun, blade half drawn, his courage trembling but present. "You'd keep secrets when everything burns." Dorian's eyes narrowed, his smirk fading. "Some truths do more harm than lies." Rowan clutched the chest, his jaw tight. "Then I'll be the fool who risks it." The box pulsed, its glow casting eerie light on his face, and he knew fate had thrust him into more than he could handle. When Seraphina returned, soaked and shaking, Kaelen forced himself upright. His eyes burned with determination despite the curse twisting in his veins. "You deserve truth," he said, voice ragged. She froze, fear sparking at his tone. "I am no ordinary prince. I was born of the sea's bargain, bound in blood to its power. My curse is not chance but destiny." Rowan gasped, clutching the glowing chest tighter. Dorian's expression hardened, though regret flickered behind his eyes. Seraphina's world tilted, her chest tight. "You are the storm," she whispered, tears breaking her composure. Kaelen's gaze locked on hers, sorrow deep as the ocean. "And loving me may drown you." The waves outside crashed like thunder, sealing his confession with their fury. The storm pressed heavier as Kaelen stood, his curse glowing like fire beneath his skin. His voice broke the silence, trembling with truth. "I am not heir to a throne of land," he confessed, "but to a throne of tides. My bloodline was bound by oath to the sea itself." Seraphina staggered back, her heart pounding with dread. Rowan's hand tightened around the glowing chest, realization dawning. Dorian's eyes narrowed, jaw tightening in fury and sorrow. "You are not a victim of fate," Dorian growled. "You are its weapon." Kaelen's gaze wavered, filled with shame. "I never asked for this curse," he said, his tone raw. The waves beyond roared louder, as if celebrating his admission. Seraphina's voice shook as she spoke, her eyes fierce despite her trembling hands. "Your curse is not coincidence, it is tied to me." Kaelen's breath caught, his expression stricken. Rowan frowned, staring between them. "What does that mean?" Dorian's laughter was bitter. "It means the sea was never done with her. It chained them together." Seraphina clenched her fists, her magic flaring. "The curse grows stronger when we are near. My love fuels its hunger." Kaelen stepped closer despite the warning in her tone. "Or maybe it fuels our strength." Their gazes locked, fragile hope clashing with unbearable fear. The sea outside roared, as though echoing their unspoken choice. Dorian stepped forward, anger breaking through his calm mask. "I once swore to protect you, Seraphina, but he will destroy you." His voice cracked with pain. Seraphina's heart clenched, memories of their past rising unbidden. "You chose power over me, Dorian. That was your curse." His eyes darkened with regret, but his tone sharpened. "I would trade my soul to undo what I lost. Let me fight in your place. Let me save you." Rowan glanced nervously between them, sensing the storm building within. Kaelen growled, his body trembling with fury. "You had your chance. She is mine to stand beside now." Dorian's face twisted, torn between longing and rage, as lightning split the sky overhead. From the mist, The shapeshifter appeared again, their form flickering between faces like shattered glass. "You fools," they sneered, voice echoing with many tones. "Do you not see? Your love is the key. The curse is no prison, it is a bond. Break it, and the sea will devour you both." Seraphina's magic sparked wildly as she glared at them. "Then tell me the cost." The shapeshifter's grin was cruel, features melting from woman to man in a blink. "One heart must drown so the other may live." Rowan gasped, shaking his head violently. Kaelen's face hardened with determination. Seraphina's breath caught, terror choking her throat. The sea thundered, eager for the bargain to be struck. Kaelen reached for Seraphina, his eyes filled with desperate resolve. "If one of us must drown, let it be me." Her heart shattered, her voice fierce. "Do not speak such madness. I will not watch you fall." Rowan shook his head violently. There must be another way. But Dorian's silence said he believed none. The shapeshifter's laughter echoed, cruel and haunting. Kaelen cupped Seraphina's face with trembling hands, his curse glowing brighter. "If my life ends the storm, then I give it freely, because loving you has already undone me." Tears spilled from her eyes as she shook her head, her magic surging uncontrollably. The storm howled, demanding its price as their fate hung on the edge of choice. The sea convulsed as if alive, waves rising into towering walls. Lightning ripped the heavens while the shore cracked beneath their feet. Kaelen's curse blazed, his body glowing like molten glass. Seraphina cried out, her magic lashing wildly against the storm. Rowan stumbled, shielding his eyes as the sky tore open with thunder. "This is no storm," he shouted. "It's war." Dorian unsheathed his blade, eyes locked on Lysandra's shadowed form, emerging across the rocks. Her laughter cut through the chaos, sharp and merciless. "At last the sea gives me what I seek." The waves surged, lifting her like a queen upon a throne of ruin. Seraphina's breath caught. This was the reckoning she had feared. Kaelen staggered forward, his glow pulsing like a beacon. "I'll end this," he roared, but Seraphina grabbed his arm, her eyes burning. "You'll destroy yourself." He met her gaze, pain cutting through him. "Better me than you." Lysandra sneered, weaving black tendrils of water into spears. Dorian charged, sword flashing in arcs of silver. Rowan darted to Kaelen's side, fear evident but courage unshaken. "We fight together or we drown apart," Rowan cried. The sea roared, hurling waves that slammed against the rocks. Seraphina's magic flared in defiance, her power entwining with Kaelen's cursed glow. Lightning struck so close it scorched the earth, yet none stepped back. The ground trembled as Anselm appeared, his staff blazing with runes. "Enough," he thundered, his old voice carrying across the storm. "The sea does not take, it bargains." He struck the ground, waves freezing mid-surge. Lysandra hissed, shadows recoiling, her fury rising. Kaelen gasped, his curse quaking as the runes drew at his power. "What are you doing?" he demanded. Anselm's eyes glistened with sorrow. "Buying you time." His body trembled, strength pouring from him like water from a broken vessel. Seraphina screamed, "No!" But his expression was calm, a weary smile forming. Some tides must end so others may rise. The light consumed him as the storm raged louder. Kaelen's curse surged, threatening to tear him apart. He fell to his knees, screaming as glowing cracks spread across his skin. Seraphina rushed to him, gripping his face. "Stay with me." His eyes burned with agony. "I can't. If I don't release it, it will kill you." Her tears mixed with the rain as she pressed her forehead to his. "Then let it kill me too." Rowan shouted desperately, "There must be another way." Dorian's face twisted, torn between fury and despair. Lysandra raised her arms, ready to strike, but the ground quaked as Kaelen's power exploded outward, hurling waves into the sky. Seraphina clung to him as the world shattered. The sea erupted as Kaelen unleashed his full power, waves towering higher than mountains. His roar echoed with pain and defiance. Seraphina's magic wove into his, binding them together. Their light clashed against Lysandra's darkness, the battle tearing the world apart. Rowan clung to the rocks, eyes wide in terror and awe. Dorian charged through the chaos, his blade striking Lysandra's shield of shadows. The storm screamed, lightning striking endlessly. Kaelen's voice broke as he cried, "Choose me or lose me." Seraphina's soul split with the weight of his words, but her answer was in her actions. She pulled him close, surrendering fully to love and fate. The sea trembled, awaiting its price. The storm's fury broke, leaving silence heavier than thunder. Waves receded, dragging shattered ruins into the dark. Kaelen collapsed onto the rocks, his glow fading, his chest rising shallowly. Seraphina knelt beside him, pressing trembling hands against his wounds. "Stay with me," she whispered, her voice raw. Rowan staggered forward, blood streaking his cheek, clutching the chest still glowing faintly. Dorian stood apart, his sword dripping with seawater, his expression torn between rage and grief. The horizon burned with the first fragile threads of dawn, light breaking against the wreckage. Seraphina's heart thudded in her chest, knowing the sea's price was not yet fully claimed. Dorian turned, his face shadowed with torment. "It should have been me," he muttered, voice breaking. Seraphina rose sharply, her grief igniting anger. "You had your chance to choose love over power, and you lost it." His eyes burned, though regret softened their edge. Rowan stepped between them, clutching the chest tighter. "Enough. The sea has taken enough of us already." Kaelen groaned faintly, drawing their attention back. His lips moved, barely audible. "Don't fight for me." Seraphina gripped his hand, tears spilling freely. "I will fight for you until my last breath." Silence followed, broken only by the soft crash of waves as the dawn grew brighter. Rowan sank to his knees, clutching the chest close. "I was never meant for this," he whispered, his voice trembling. "But maybe this is why the sea spared me." Seraphina turned, her tear-streaked face softening. "Rowan." He opened the chest, revealing a swirling core of ocean light. Its glow reflected in his eyes, fear mingling with fragile courage. "If this power saves him, then let it take me instead." Dorian's eyes widened, stepping forward. "You'd sacrifice yourself for him." Rowan's smile was faint, sad. "Isn't that what love means?" The glow pulsed, responding to his resolve, as the tide surged in acknowledgement of his choice. Kaelen stirred, his voice hoarse. "No, it's my burden." He tried to rise, but Seraphina pressed him back gently. "You don't have to carry it alone." Dorian clenched his fists, jaw tight. "If sacrifice must be made, let it be mine. My sins demand it." Rowan shook his head fiercely, tears in his eyes. "This isn't about penance, it's about love." Seraphina looked between them, her chest aching as choices pressed in like a tide. She leaned close to Kaelen, her lips brushing his ear. "I will not lose you. If love is the curse, then let it also be the cure." Her magic flared, intertwining with his fading light, binding them tighter. As the tide reached for them, Kaelen's body convulsed with light, his curse unraveling. Seraphina cried out, pouring her magic into him, their power fusing in a storm of brilliance. Rowan shielded his eyes, his chest glowing in sympathy. Dorian turned away, unable to watch, his face breaking with sorrow. The waves stilled, the sea silenced, as if bowing to their choice. Kaelen's breath steadied, his glow fading into calm. Seraphina collapsed against him, sobbing, yet smiling through tears. He whispered weakly, "You saved me." She kissed his brow, her voice trembling. "No, we saved each other." The dawn broke fully, painting the sea gold, leaving only the echo of love's song on the wind.